I mean, you said you had to learn to live for the moment, not too far ahead, not look too far ahead, not think too much about the past, but try and live for now. And I was, that's exactly what I had to do. Also, I recognised that I had to keep my brain alive. I had to keep active. And so I wrote in my head.
I said, how do you do that? Because I know you wrote your book in your head, and then ultimately it became a real book. I mean,
well, just by discipline.
I was going to say, where did that discipline come from?
It was a case of necessity. A case of necessity of either saying that, because when you're in solitude, you know, there's a real danger that you can fall into insanity and lose your mind.
Terry, I've seen it.
I've seen it too, and it's not good.
No, it's hellish. But I wonder how you managed, because I didn't have that, what you had. When you describe your experience, me, in my Wandsworth cell with my bucket, my bars, I knew I wasn't going to be killed the next day by the state.
That's true, but the parallel to that in British criticism is this, that, for instance, there were sentences called IPP sentences, which you know, where someone can be given a prison sentence, and then it can be extended and extended and extended with no end to it. I mean, I met recently in prison, just not too long ago, a woman who had mental problems, and because of IPP, she had been in prison, can you believe it, 40 years.
40 years?
40. And much of that in segregation. Now, eventually, through a long, complicated process, I'm not going to go into that, she came out, and she's out now, and making something of life.
My God, Terry.
But, you know, that's what's happening in our
the system. You see, the thing is, I was one of the lucky ones, look, why am I sitting here? Not because I became a guardian journalist. If anything, that almost kept me in. You know, when I was, I went in without skills or abilities, but I gradually started to, figure out, I saw possibilities in prison. I gravitated towards people like teachers, some good prison officers, some good governors. I gravitated towards them. I thought, I want to be like those people, like good, decent people, after having been a criminal most of my life since I was 10. And I started building, and then I was guided into education. And I found out I could achieve things in education. And in fact, the psychologists who told me, look, we're all born lovable. We're all born with potential to be the best versions of who we can be. I said, even me, even you. I said, that made me cry, And I sort of, achieved things. And I used to go back to John Sell with my certificates. I said, John, look, I've done this. I was 32 years old when I passed my first GCSE O-level exam. Grade A in English. That's John, she said, I told you. She wasn't like jumping up and down. She said, I wasn't the special one. On my wing, Terry, there were 85 men convicted of murder. There were serial killers, there were child abductors. It was terrorists. We were the worst of the worst. But this little woman used to go away. A little pouch of keys on her hip. And she'd open the big gate and she'd walk on. And we were there on the wing, and you sort of quickly people guess out. John's on the wing. The word went round. Everyone. We're safe. Some of the dangerous people in the country on that wing. But John came in. We were safe. You know why? Because she treated us with humanity, with courtesy. She respected the dignity of our humanity. Please don't be offended by that. Please don't be offended by that. That's what she did. And her job was to try and figure out how we become the dangerous harm causes that we become. And she spent a lot of time. Eventually, she said to me, you've got to get an education. Joan, I said, I'm too thick. She said, no. So as I joined the English class, I passed the exams, took a degree. It wasn't all fun and games, Terry. I was in a riot in Long Larson prison in 1990, major riot. There was one there 3 months ago, major riot in Long Larson. Somebody was killed. That was 3 months ago. My riot, nobody was killed. The barricades went up, the sparks were flying, the flames were burning. Somebody smashed the telly. In those days, we had one telly between 60 people. Somebody smashed it. Who smashed the telly? Somebody smashed the pipes, no water. And my next door neighbour, Mickey Jennison, I don't mind mentioning his name, Mickey Jennison, but he was in for killing 5 people. He came to my cell, he said, he's got a spear and a mask. He says, come on, let's go kill the nonces. And prison is this strange language. He's a sex offender, nonce. He's a grass, an informer. He's a screw, a prison officer. He's a con, a prisoner. Bang up, lock it, burn your door, slop up, empty your door. There's this strange cultural thing that we've allowed to develop in our prisons, which is totally alien to normal, civilized life. Mickey Jameson comes to my cell and said, got a spear and a mask. Let's go kill the monsters. I said, Mickey, let's not do that to him. Let's keep calm. I got a pillowcase. I had 12 books then. You know, it took me 4 years to get my own dictionary. My Oxford, my Chambers dictionary. I put my 12 books in my pillowcase. And I got a table leg. And I got Mickey outside the door going berserk. Let's kill nuts. He's in for killing 5 people. He wants to go and kill 7 more people. I said, Jim, that's Mickey, no. Let's don't do that. I got my table leg and said, let's not do that tonight. Okay, back to the riot squad came in, they cleared us, 15-hour siege. Mickey Jemison hanged himself 6 months later. I don't remember his name. In Philosophical prison. You know, there were the challenges of our prison system. We were captives. We were captives in totally different circumstances. But there were challenges that we have resonances, Terry, don't we? Yeah.
You asked me about, I didn't answer you about coming out of rehabilitation. You asked me about
I can rehabilitate, Terry.
See, I think part of the way is to try and understand.
It's almost decompression, I don't think it's
yes, but it's to try and understand, first of all, why people behave as they behave.
Yes, I agree. That's
you know, now in your case, and this is true, I think, of many people in prison. What is the route that's led you to this particular course of life? Why do you behave as you behave? Now, in my experience of prisons, and I've been in and out of British prisons for the last 60 years, in my experience, there are very, very few, as you might call it, black-hearted criminals.
very few, too.
Very few. There are con men, there are people who will do this, that, and that, but very few totally black-hearted criminals.
I'm going to interrupt very briefly, too, because you said 20 years I was in jail. I swear to you, I'm not a spokesman for prisoners. I'm not an advocate. I'm not a sort of apologist for criminals at all. But I met every type of offender in prison. Every type of offender you've read about, you imagined, the bogeyman, I met everybody. I hardly met anybody who rejoiced in being a criminal, rejoiced in, was proud of being a harm causer. Most of the people I met wanted to change the way they lived, wanted to change. For some people, how is it that somebody, you did have a loving, I had a loving life, a loving family till I was 7. And I think that was still in there all these years later. That little.
Let me tell you one story that's not fully true. It's only half true. You mentioned the family. When I came back, my wife said, "Oh, it's good to see you. I've been waiting for you for 5 years."
That was fully true.
5 years. I said, "That's very good of you." She said, "Yes, but you came back." I think we should throw you up.
This has been a very attentive, engaging audience, very courteous, and we've waffled on a bit.
Questions or comments? From many comments.
There is a microphone, I think. Karen's got a microphone.
No, it's Sean.
I'm a spiritual leader, and I'm very interested in how people cope with impossible situations such as yours, Terry, in particular. Did you have any moments of spiritual revelation during your captivity which made those very low ceilings and that terrible environment, to put it mildly?
Well, the answer to that, did I have any spiritual revelation in those days? The answer is no. I don't believe so directly. This may just sound surprising to some people, but I don't believe I ever felt what some people would say is a close presence of God. I felt alone, and often I felt isolated. Now that doesn't mean to say I lost my faith, because I think it is very, very dangerous to make faith dependent on feeling, because feeling can be influenced in so many ways, by illness or by so many different things. And if you make faith dependent on feeling, or over-excessively dependent on feeling, you're in trouble. But there are times, I think, when I don't look back on that experience, and it seemed to me at the time to be bleak and empty and devoid of meaning. But now looking back on it was full of meaning. It was full of things that have developed from it, which would never have developed. I mean, I would never have started to write. But I've written several books now. It prompted me to help launch Emmaus for people who found themselves on the margins of life. It prompted me to found Hostage International, which is an organisation supporting hostage families. That's developed from the experience. Wiki also, an organisation for young people around the world who don't have a chance. All these things have developed from what seemed to be a negative experience. So what I'm saying is, don't just depend on feeling, but somehow it can be the source. And when you go through difficulties, it doesn't need to be destructive. Suffering, in other words, need not destroy. It's always difficult to face, always hard to face, but it needn't destroy. Something creative can emerge from it. As you see with...
It's an amazing message. That's an amazing message. Suffering needn't destroy. It's an amazing message. I saw people in prison destroyed by our prison system, by their own, their own issues and their own demons. I saw people over the years, and it is an attitude in here. I feel blessed. My attitude somehow, I had an attitude that said, I've got to make something meaningful. I never thought, when I went to jail in '84, that I'd become a journalist. Just if the death penalty had been on the statute books when I was convicted. In fact, when I was in Wandsworth, being stripped and poked about and humiliated when they took me in, and the officers were joking. 20 years ago, you'd be on E-wing. I thought, what the hell was E? I didn't know what E-wing was. It turned out when I got to D-wing, which was the maximum security landing, I found out during the gossip and the chat that E-wing was where the old death cell was, and the gallows was on E-wing. And they still had a working gallows in Wandsworth until 1996, by the way. And they used to get the sandbags up the officers and oil the cogs and I swear to God, I promise you, I can look you all in the eye. And Terry, he knows I'm telling the truth. I would have just gone, if it was the death penalty, I would have just gone. I would have whinged and whined and said, oh, not me. I would have gone. But I got life, so I decided to live. We give people in this country, even the worst of the worst, we give them, most of them. There's 72 people in the country, in the prison system today.
You always know you're in the death cell, because it's the only cell with 2 doors. That's in Wandsworth. I've been in it.
You've been in it, I've been in it. Do you know one of the most amazing things? I mean, we've got a bit of time, so I want to tell you a little can I tell a little story to you? Just a very brief story. So I wouldn't want any death, but I got life. I'll live. I didn't know where I was going. Long black tunnel, no light. And then I get a book. My friend in South America, after my crimes, I fled the country, like the coward I was. And I joined the French Foreign Legion. I was there for a couple of years. I became a machine gunner. And I was in Chad in Africa, and part of the biggest movement of French troops since the Second World War. I was involved in that really thing as a fugitive. Anyway, I came back when I was working, and I was extradited from France. I came back voluntarily, but I was extradited voluntarily. So I came back. And when I'm in Wandsworth prison, my friend in South America is in a Foreign Legion regiment, the 3rd Infantry Regiment in South America. And he sends me a book by David Levery Lewis about Alfred Dreyfus. And I've never had courage in my life. I've been a coward. Most criminals and crooks are cowards. Whatever the reasons that they become crooks or criminals, most people who victimize other people generally are cowardly. And I didn't have courage. I read this book called Prisoners of Honor by David Levery Lewis. And I learned about Alfred Dreyfus, who was a Jewish captain in the French army at the end of the 19th century. And he was fitted up for spying. He was convicted of being a spy. And he was sent to these islands off the coast of French Guiana called the Salvation Islands, and they built a small prison just for him on this island called Devil's Island. And I read this book, I read about the courage of this man, and I thought to myself, a coward all my life. I thought, if I ever get out of this alive, I'm in Wandsworth jail, I'm doing 99 years, if I ever get out of here alive, I want to go to that, the Devil's Island. And I want to, he loved France. He actually wrote in his diary, I leave my children to France. He was sure he was going to die there, And he used to stand in the prison cell and hold the bars and look out across the Atlantic Ocean to France. And I thought, if I ever get out alive, I'm going to go there. I mean, what a ridiculous fantasy. If I ever get out of here alive, I want to go to that prison island. I want to go into the prison. I want to hold his bars and feel his courage. Do you know, 20 years later, I'm a Guardian journalist, and it's the 100th anniversary. I mean, that journey in itself is incredible. It's the anniversary of Dreyfus's exoneration. So I said to the Guardian features editor, when I was Kath Viner, I said, Kath, look, can I go? Yeah, go on. They've paid for me to fly to French Guiana in a big 747. They got me a hire car. And a photographer in tow, Martin Ruggles. I went to this port in Kourou, French Guiana, and I could speak, because of my Foreign Legion experience, I could speak a bit of French. I'm asking around, Devil's Island. No, nobody wants to go to Devil. Nobody wants to go to Fall. Interdit. Anybody speaks French? Interdit. You must know, nobody, Devil's Island. I thought, I've got to get that island. I wanted to get a catamaran to a nearby island. And I got me in Martin, this catamaran boat to Royal Island, which is the next island, Devil's Island. It's 10 miles off the coast of French Guiana. So we get there, we're mooching about, a bit of a tourist place, there's a hotel, the old guards' quarters from the prisons. And I'm looking around, nobody there's armed guards everywhere, nobody can say. I said to Martin, it was 200 yards to Devil's Island. I said to Martin, I'm going to swim that channel, I'm going to get on that island. Martin said, I've got a family. We can't. I said, Martin, I've got to get out. Anyway, suddenly, this guy from the port show said, Monsieur, he's got a couple of fishermen from Dutch Suriname, which is the next country upwards. These guys will take you for 100 euros. So we raced out the port. Me and Martin got this dugout canoe, a motorized dugout canoe. And we motor across with these guys, there's a bit of French, a bit of Dutch, a bit of English, a bit of American, and we try to communicate. I said, we'll get you there. I gave him 50 euros. And I jumped. He said, allez, saute, jump. So I jumped off this canoe. Martin followed me. The one flat face, there's no sort of harbour. The one black flat-faced rock. We jumped on the rock and we raced through me and Martin, through these old canoe trees. These are banana trees and coconut trees. And we got into this clearance and there was Dreyfus's prison. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine what that journey from Wandsworth prison? I read a book and discovered courage. And I walked to this prison, and the gate was hanging open. And I walked in, Martin was taking pictures, jumping about. And I walked in, and I breathed Dreyfus's air. This is like 100 years after he was exonerated. He spent 5 years there, Terry, strapped to a bed. He was innocent, Terry, an innocent captive, fitted up, because he was a Jew. No other reason. The anti-Semitism there in France was just rife, because I didn't understand all this stuff. You know, I wasn't educated, but by then, by the time I got to his prison, I understood exactly what had happened to him. Then I walked in that prison. It's tiny, it's like 6 meters by 6 meters with a little barrier. There was his bars. You know, I stood in that wrapped with bars. I swear to God, I cried. I couldn't believe the journey that I'd made from Wandsworth prison. Never mind the education in jail. Never mind the psychologists, the good prison officers I met, the governors, the journey I'd made. My God, holding those prison bars. Because I got a book when I was in prison, and it taught me about courage. It taught me about courage.
I think that's probably the longest answer you've ever had.
I just wanted to tell this audience, you've told a couple of long ones.
No, is there any more questions? Another question?
Yeah, I've got the mic there,
Sean, where's Sean? Sean and I were in prison together 30 years ago.
Yeah, I advertised a meeting with you.
Big Jim.
You only kicked you when there was another gym around.
That's true.
That's the really gym, and then you work with you because you did every weight.
Yes.
But thanks for coming tonight, and you, Terry. It's been interesting. You touched on recovery. Like Jim said, I was in prison, and I did that time. And do you, as individuals, ever find yourselves back there? Because I know there were times when I was locked up that I was out here. And
Sean, do you mean psychologically?
yeah. I found myself when I was in, sort of dreaming that I was out here. And then sometimes I find myself, not now, previous years, where I was still back in there. I was still living that life, that regime of being controlled. I mean, your captivities are both very different, but you know, I've known Terry for a number of years, so I've never asked him, do you have flashbacks? Do you wake up?
Well, first of all, I personally don't have flashbacks. No.
Dreams, Terry? Do you dream at all about?
No. I think the reason being that when I came out, the book I'd written in my head, I put it on paper. And at the time, I didn't think that was therapeutic. But looking back, I think it was. You know, writing it down and somehow managing it rather than being managed by it. Because you can be, if you don't manage an experience, it will manage you. And that's what you're saying. You know, somehow you look at your past, you're very frank about your past, you're still troubled by it in many ways, but...
This seems unreal, Terry, that I'm sort of here.
Exactly. And you made something of it.
But you've made something also of your sort of... That was going to be the most challenging thing that ever happened to you. You had some challenges, you know, I know a little bit about your soldiering, because you were a soldier. See, me and you were soldiers. I was a fugitive soldier. You were a guardsman, you were a guardsman. And you were in Beirut. I lied about being in Beirut because I was trying to... See, here's the thing, I got out of captivity. You got out to applause and people were rejoicing when you got out of captivity. When I got out, I was hiding because people didn't know who I was. My full name was Erwin James Bonner, and I never really in my guardian stuff, I never revealed that. And when I got out, I actually liked, I went in as a failed drunken tramp who got a little bit of respite with the Foreign Legion, went to jail for life, came out a Guardian columnist, a man of letters, a graduate, and that was really, and I liked that. I didn't like being the other guy. And so I sort of hid for a while, and I still did my writing, Irwin James, still did conferences, and I had a conference in Westminster where I was chairing a conference where I had David Lammy MP was one of my speakers, Maria Eagle, and I was the chair. And I went out of prison like 2 months. But nobody knew who was Irwin James. And then the logosphere. Who did Irwin James kill? What's Irwin James' crimes? And after a while, I started to lie, which I hadn't done. I wrote a piece in The Guardian about me, about my Legion experience, because the Guardian said, well, the Legion don't take Brits anymore, they're too flabby. Can you write a piece about the Foreign Legion? So I did. And I lied about my time. I joined in 82. I said I joined in 81. I said I was in Beirut, which I wasn't. Because my unit had just come back from Beirut. Beirut was I was in Chad. And that sort of, that caused a bit of stuff. But here's, I'm telling you that because it's been really difficult for me. Once I was uncovered, once I was like revealed, it's him! It was actually easier, Terry. You didn't quite have that. You came back, Terry Waite, you came back a hero.
Well, that's partly true, but also, you see, what happened when I came back, the press did give me initially a very hard time.
Did they?
They brought up the Oliver North story and said that I was implicated in the government. Now, I can assure you that if I had been guilty and been involved in that, I would not have survived captivity, because Hezbollah took me because they were suspicious as to what Iran was doing, cavorting with America. And they said, take Terry Waite, he will know. And that's why they interrogated me. And if I had been associated, I would be dead. Because anybody who was in captivity with me, who was associated, either the CIA station chief or other people like that, all were murdered, all died. And I didn't, I came out. And I thought to myself when I came out, how ironical. Here I am now, having convinced my captors that I'm an innocent person, sure. Now having to face a trial again by media. Well, now that was very, very difficult. Yeah. And that gives me an understanding of what it's like for somebody to come out who has been, say, guilty of a crime and is trying to be rehabilitated. All the time you feel, or you feel some of the time anyway.
You can't, I could never believe that I could be accepted by my society.
Exactly.
Actually, what I've proved through my diligence and resilience is just keep going. Yeah, just keep going. Some people, look, what I learned, somebody in prison told me, he said, Big Jim, he said, you're out there, he said, you got a pub, he said, half the people will hate you, just the way you look. A quarter of the people will like you because of the way you look. The other quarter will be indifferent. Now, when you have the sort of background that I have, it's hard to figure out, because you feel the public opprobrium when you're in jail. Whatever you think about people in prison, I'll tell you this, I promise you this. The walls of our prisons are dripping with remorse, regret, self-loathing for the pain they've caused. Don't make any mistake, whether you read in the papers about prisoners having a cockiness, having a great time on society and taxpayers, benefit. The pensioners are starving at Christmas, and the prisoners are having a great time, slap up meals. Whatever, read between the lines. You'd be amazed at how much, people in prison feel the regret for the pain they've caused, and they're aware of the opprobrium of our society. But I became a writer, Terry. I didn't mean, that was not planned. I become a guardian columnist in jail, and I walk out, I'm a guardian columnist, and I'm no longer like a drunken criminal tramp. I'm actually a man of letters, and I'm in the Guardian, and that was a scary thing, going to the Guardian for the first time.
Can we take one more question?
Yes, let's take more than one.
Well, the time it's 9 o'clock.
But they're not looking to go, these guys.
I've got to try to stop it.
Oh, Christ. These keeps going.
Is there another question? Gentleman here. Is that... Oh, there. We'll come back. We'll come back.
Well, first of all, I want to thank both of you for sharing so openly your personal experience. You both have experienced the worst of what life could offer, and yet brought forth the best of who you are, and you're sharing that with all of us. And I find myself in Canterbury on the 11th anniversary of the Mumbai terrorist attack. And my husband and daughter were both killed in that attack. And so I have some experience of being on that end of a recipient of a tragedy that changes one's life completely. And I haven't been held captive or hostage, but I find that one can be emotionally held hostage by holding on to hatred, and I know that both of you know this because you've made the choice to move forward with your life, to love life, and to focus on that rather than hatred. And I guess within this, the question is, how can we get to those who make the choice to destroy life and become brainwashed like the terrorists do? How can we get underneath that to prevent such things through understanding and reaching them as human beings, because they got disconnected from their humanity?
I can give you a direct answer to that. Illustrated with a short story. In captivity, when I was in captivity, the food became very bad. It was never good, but it became very bad. Not particularly for me, but for other hostages. I heard this story later. They complained, and the leader of the group eventually came to see them about 6 months later. And he looked into it, and he discovered the old trick. The guard on duty had been given money to buy food. He pocketed half and spent the other half on food. So they took the guard out and they shot him. Because they said, betrayers in small matters, and someone comes along with a big bribe, you betray the whole group. Now the dynamic of that situation is as follows. Young men who have nothing or little, and they're not necessarily dim people at all, but they're in circumstances where, for instance with Hezbollah, they were all at the bottom of the pile, economically, religiously, socially, in every way. Along comes a charismatic leader and says, join this group and you will have, we'll be able to fight for your rights. They join and they find then that there's no way out. There's no way out for them. They're there and they're caught. Now that is exactly the same dynamic that is operative in gangs in this country.
And prisons too.
And prisons too. Young people caught into that, age 14, 13, 12, 13, 14, and then no way out for them. And that's why I go back, Erwin, to the point. Let us try and have a more sensible analysis of the situations that's facing us in the country and with people, and in these overseas situations, and more sensible. And let's deal with it in a way that is not destructive, because warfare does not resolve these problems.